Luigi has been put through a lot during his adventures in the Mario franchise. From the King Koopa to the Beanish Lord Fawful to even his own goofy alter ego, Waluigi, the second brother seems to always have trouble on the horizon. However, despite his valiant efforts, he can never seem to escape the shadow of the more heroic and successful Mario. That is, until he receives a strange notice detailing a mansion he won through a contest he didn't enter. Since then, Luigi has faced his fair share of ghosts in attempts to rescue his family and friends. But are all these characters truly evil, or do they forsake their ghoulish namesake? I'm Kyle with 1UP Binge, and this is Luigi's Mansion Good to Evil. But before we start, let's go over 3 rules. 1. We will be focusing on characters central to the Luigi's Mansion series, so outside characters like Peach and Toad or minor ghosts will not be directly covered. We'll mainly focus on the protagonists and boss ghosts, although some less important characters in Luigi's Mansion 3 will be skipped. 2. Characters who are extremely similar in motive and design will be grouped together in one ranking. And 3. Not all of the characters have backstory or dialogue. As such, I will try to rank those characters on design, maliciousness, and their overall threat to Luigi. Does that all make sense? Great, let's get started. First up, we'll be starting with the most noble character and working our way down. Characters who show true altruism and kindness. These characters are the good. The gold medal of good goes to the green plumber himself, as well as his gelatinous counterpart, Luigi and Guiji. As the protagonist of the Luigi's Mansion series, Luigi has put his life on the line to save his friends and family on multiple occasions. Not only that, but he also faces one of his biggest fears, that being ghosts. We can assume that Guiji has similar motivations as a clone that Luigi sometimes shares his consciousness with, although it doesn't express as much fear. Guiji even goes through countless deaths just to help Luigi and Professor E Gatt accomplish their goals. Now, some of you hardcore Luigi's Mansion players might be saying, wait a minute, doesn't Luigi collect a ton of money on his adventure, when he should be focused on saving his friends? And while that is a good point, we can see in the opening cutscene for Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon that the house that Luigi lives in is the rank D mansion given at the end of the first game, meaning he only collected a moderate amount of money while trying to save Mario. Not only that, the money in Dark Moon is used to upgrade the Poltergust 5000, and the money in Luigi's Mansion 3 is used to build a new hotel to replace the one that King Boo destroyed. So overall, he is very brave and generous despite the circumstances, truly holding up the Mario name. Next up, we have Madame Clairvoya. Despite being one of the portrait ghosts inhabiting Luigi's Mansion, she offers Luigi help in trying to save Mario. She guides him to find items Mario left behind and uses her fortune-telling powers to help discover the state of his brother. She does so without asking anything in return, even using up all of her powers to communicate with the spirits in the process. Once she loses her powers, she asks Luigi to return her to her portrait, thanking him and willingly being captured with little struggle. She never offers a real threat to Luigi despite all the other ghosts in the mansion doing so, and considering her sacrifice, she gets the silver medal on this list. The bronze medal of good goes to the tenacious tyke himself, Polter Pup. As stated in the start of Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, he is a victim of King Boo's plot to destroy the Dark Moon, turning the ghosts of Evershade Valley hostile in the process. However, even while in this state, Polter Pup doesn't show much of a threat. He is mainly a nuisance to Luigi by stealing his keys, and shows a lot of overexcitement due to wanting an owner. After the Dark Moon is reformed, Polter Pup shows regret for his actions, and is incredibly kind to Luigi after being taken in. In Luigi's Mansion 3, he follows Luigi on his adventures and occasionally helps him while also getting into a bit of mischief. He even saves Luigi's life when the hotel comes crumbling down, and he didn't even need a gold bone. What a good boy. Next up, we have the ghosts of Evershade Valley. Now, very similar to Polter Pup, these ghosts were turned evil by the destruction of the Dark Moon, becoming the forces in which King Boo tries to oppose Luigi. However, once the Dark Moon is reformed and they are freed from the vault, the ghosts show a great amount of kindness to each other and gratefulness to Luigi and friends for saving them. The only reason they're lower on this list Atlas than Polter Pup is because they don't directly apologize for their actions like he did, and we get to see Polter Pup save Luigi's life on future occasions. Second to last in the good category, we have the dozing girl Supi. Found in the guest room of Luigi's mansion, she is a young girl who died at the age of 7 in her sleep. She continues to sleep in the afterlife, angrily telling Luigi not to bother her slumber. While she is an optional ghost to catch, Luigi has hinted at a way to catch her from her promise not to wet the bed. Using the Poltergust 3000 to spray the ghost, her heart will be exposed and Luigi will have the chance to catch her. While she isn't very nice to Luigi, her overall innocent demeanor and tragic fate put her near the top of this list. And rounding out our good category, we have the Last Resort's director Morty. When Luigi first meets Morty on floor 8 of the hotel, he is in shambles over losing his red megaphone. Once going through the set to find it, Morty realizes that Luigi has the makings of a star, and puts him on stage to record his fight with Godzilla. After defeating Godzilla, Morty thanks Luigi for his efforts by willingly giving him the elevator button to floor 9. Not only is he the only boss ghost in the game you don't have to capture, but if you come back right before the end of the game, he even makes a movie out of the footage that you can watch. Now this is a good moment to explain something some of you might be confused about regarding the end of Luigi's Mansion 3. After the hotel is destroyed, all the minor ghosts break out of E Gatt's vault, ready to cause havoc. However, once the gem from King Boo's crown disappears, they seem to snap out of a trance, and become much more kind to Luigi and friends. This would imply that, just like Dark Moon, all of the ghosts aside from King Boo, Helen Gravely, and the Boos were mind-controlled, and shouldn't be held accountable for their actions. However, we never see a kind boss ghost in the ending cutscene or credits, and as Morty has just shown us, the boss ghosts are evil. Therefore, despite his fellow ghosts' actions, Director Morty is truly kind given free will, some showboating aside. With that said, we now move on to the fairly nice characters. These are the characters that show little threat to our hero and show some kind or positive traits. First up, we have the bodybuilder Biff Atlas. Now, at first glance, he wouldn't seem like a character who would go on the fairly nice list. He looks incredibly strong, and when using the Game Boy Horror to analyze his heart, he noticeably calls Luigi a weakling. However, he actually isn't a ghost you need to fight. You can leave him to his weightlifting, and the only way to aggravate him is by hitting him with a punching bag. Furthermore, it is stated in his biography to love lilies due to their symbolization of purity. Due to his underlying kindness, he shows up first in this category. Similar to the disposition of Biff Atlas, we have the lonely pool shark Slim Bankshat. While he doesn't have a secret love of flowers, he can be found in the billiards room of Luigi's mansion playing a game of pool to himself. His biography notes him to be a legend in the world of competitive pool, despite never playing against a living soul. On top of being an optional ghost, the pool balls he hits around the room aren't directly aimed at Luigi, and only deal 5 HP of damage. He doesn't even attack differently after trying to be captured by the Poltergust, going back to his game of pool. Despite not having a secret good side, his lack of threat puts him right below Biff. Next, we have a man with a mustache to rival the Mario Brothers, Neville. The bookish father, Neville mostly sticks to himself, reading the books he missed in life in his rocking chair. The book he reads in game is called Mario's Story, which, as some of you may know, is actually the Japanese name for Paper Mario. As the first portrait ghost in the first game, he attacks Luigi with slowly floating books that do 5 HP of damage. Once leaning back in his chair and yawning, Luigi can stun and catch him with the Poltergust. Luigi can also find a Big Baby Care diary written by Neville himself, given details on his children Chauncey, Henry, and Orville. While the quality of his parenting is something we'll bring up later, his general demeanor and admirable pastime put Neville third in the fairly nice category. Going down the family tree, we have the Hermit of Darkness, Uncle Grimly. Now, he doesn't seem like the kind of ghost who would be outwardly nice or kind. As stated before, he's a hermit, staying away from the family and practicing his scary poses in front of mirrors. But it makes all the more sense when you consider that he shows up when a lightning strike knocked out the power in Luigi's mansion. Due to this darkness allowing him and the other ghosts to roam much more freely, he locks the door to the breaker room, which Luigi needs to restore the power. Despite the disconnection with his family, this could be considered as noble for his fellow ghosts. even trying his best to scare Luigi away once encountering him. However, this fails and Luigi catches him with little resistance. This honorable act of support lands him right under Neville on this list. Last in this category are the Floating Whirlindas. We get some of the least information on this couple when it comes to morality. Aside from being a loving couple and previous local waltz champions, they don't say much that isn't related to their dance. While Luigi does need to capture them to progress, they don't present any direct threat to him, much like Uncle Grimly. The only thing that points to them being malicious is the 6 Shy Guy ghosts that show up in the ballroom beforehand, although that was most likely due to Vincent Van Gogh rather than them. To be safe, they're going last in the fairly nice category, but at least they'll be here together. This is where we get into some of our conflicting characters. This is the gray area, where characters can be pretty mean but still have some good attributes or plausible deniability. Remember the bookish father Neville? Well, it's time to talk about his wife, Lydia, the mirror-gazing mother. As her name would imply, Luigi finds her in the master bathroom admiring her appearance. When scanning her heart, she comments on how gorgeous her hair is, how she spends all day in front of the mirror since being freed from her painting, and how glad she is that her appearance scares others. This self-obsession and desire to frighten others doesn't necessarily hurt anyone, aside from possibly her children, but it is negative enough to put her in this category. Next up, we have the Wandering Butler, Shivers. Just like Lydia, he doesn't directly threaten Luigi, found in the halls of the first floor of Luigi's mansion. He automatically wins some sympathy points for serving as a butler while being the second oldest resident of the mansion. In his biography, it is stated that he endlessly searches the mansion for his master's will, hoping to find himself in it. Third up in our gray area, we have Miss Petunia. Found taking a shower in the bathroom of Luigi's mansion, she has very pig-like features despite the shadows she casts on the shower curtains. In anger at the curtain being opened, she shoots scalding water at Luigi that does 10 HP of damage. To catch her, Luigi must use a blast of ice to make her sneeze and vulnerable to be caught. While most games have taught us that pig-like features are evil and she is required to be caught to progress, she acts pretty realistically to someone invading her shower. And wanting to spend your afterlife taking hot showers is pretty understandable. Next is the chilly climber, Sir Weston. Similar to Uncle Grimly, Sir Weston hides in a remote corner of the mansion by himself. He stays in the cold storage room, frozen in a large block of ice. To interact with him, Luigi must light campfires under the block of ice, which enrages Sir Weston. He then attacks Luigi using icicles, which can do a whopping 20 HP of damage if Luigi doesn't dodge them. This does seem fairly cruel, but Luigi did make it unbearably hot for the ghost. Not only that, but Sir Weston seems actually worried about the fire hazard the campfires present to the mansion. These factors land Sir Weston fourth in the gray area. Resembling neither animal nor human, we have Jarvis, the Jar Collector. As the second to last optional ghost on this list, he challenges Luigi to a game of whack-a-mole if he wants to look at his jar collection. After shooting ice to freeze Jarvis every time he pops up, he admits defeat and decides to take revenge on Luigi for embarrassing him. Using jars that do 5 HP of damage, he attacks Luigi and soon loses once again. The only real admirable trait he shows is honesty, which is a far cry from trying to protect the preservation of the mansion. Last in this category, we have Chauncey, the spoiled baby. Unlike the other portrait ghosts that we've covered from Luigi's mansion so far, he acts as the boss for the first area, making him much more deadly. When woken up by Luigi, he asks him if he wants to play, sending teddy bears flying and trying to punch him. In retaliation, Luigi hits him with a ball, causing Chauncey to have a tantrum that turns Luigi tiny and traps him in the baby's crib. The now huge Chauncey attacks him with rocking horses, toys, and by stomping before Luigi catches the ghost and is set free. For how evil Chauncey seems to be, there are multiple factors we have to take into account before issuing a ranking. First off, he's the youngest character in the game at 1 year old. Judging someone at that age for being cranky just doesn't feel right. Secondly, we know that his parents may not be the best role models. They actively value the ability to scare people and themselves and their children, and on top of that, Chauncey is literally called spoiled in his title. And most frighteningly of all, whereas almost all of the other ghosts were known to be alive at some point, Chauncey was born as a ghost. There is no telling what overreaching effects that has on him. Due to these factors, while still accounting for his dangerous powers, he will be the last ghost placed on the conflicting gray area category. Now we get to the fairly rude characters. These are the characters who might not be dubious enough to call the worst, but have bad attributes that clearly outweigh the good. As our first example of a fairly rude character, we have Nana. The scarf-knitting granny. Much like Neville, she spends her afterlife doing what she couldn't do in life, which is knitting her unfinished scarf, which stands at 870 feet. Her heart quote names Luigi as a funny man as she questions herself whether she could play with him or not. This attitude is further built upon Nana's diary, which details a prank she pulled on Miss Petunia by putting ice in her bathtub to freeze it. While Luigi must do this to progress, Nana did it purely out of spite, placing her first in this category. As mentioned in our Shivers ranking, we have the beautiful pianist Melody Pianisma. As the most musical boss found in Luigi's mansion, she can be found once starting all of the instruments in the conservatory. She seems to be one of the nicest portrait ghosts due to the pretty music she plays and love of video games. However, that soon falls away as you look closer into her personality. When scanning her, she makes fun of Luigi's seemingly apparent inability to play instruments. On top of that, she gets incredibly angry when Luigi incorrectly names her music or sucks the music sheets she attacks him with, fitting the surly disposition named in her biography. That and her threat to the plumber place her under Nana. Siblings to Chauncey, we have the twin brothers, Henry and Orville. Just like the spoiled baby, they want to play a game with Luigi. This game is hide and seek, where Luigi must choose the correct boxes they're hiding in order to progress. Once you win, however, they accuse Luigi of cheating, whether he used the poltergust to tell which boxes would shiver or not. Henry then rides on a car trying to run over Luigi, while Orville drops bombs from an airplane. These factors alone make them worse than Melody, but on top of that, only Orville drops pearls when you catch him. Talk about getting two for the price of one. Also attacking Luigi in numbers, we have the Clockwork Soldiers, found in the Clockwork Room of Luigi's mansion. This toy platoon is hard to judge, as not only are they not human, but they don't show much emotion or distinct attributes. However, since they attack Luigi with dangerous toy-like weapons, it's fair to say we can rank them similarly to Henry and Orville. The only reason the Clockwork Soldiers are placed lower is because instead of only one ghost dropping pearls instead of two, we have one ghost dropping pearls instead of three. What a bunch of cheapskates. Next up in our fairly rude category is Mr. Luggs, the glutton. As his title suggests, he eats. So much so that he ate himself to death and still isn't satisfied. When Luigi finds him in the dining room, he can be found in the dark shoveling a plate of food into his mouth. As the pile of food decreases, waiter ghosts appear to refill it. If you take away his butlers and food, he becomes enraged, spitting fireballs at Luigi until he tires himself out and is caught. But that is an if. As evil as he is, Luigi can leave him to his own devices and he won't bother him. All things considered, Luigi really has to go out of his way to catch him. While that does save him from being in the worst section, he's not off by much. Found not far from Mr. Luggs is the hungry guard dog, Spooky. He's found in the boneyard right outside of the kitchen, where he will try to bite Luigi when he comes near. To make him docile, Luigi must catch an annoyed Mr. Bones, who will leave a bone that Spooky will be distracted by. Once that's done, Luigi just has to catch him to progress. Just to be fair, let's say his occupation as a guard dog would have made Luigi fight him no matter what, so that can't be taken against him. However, he tries to eat anything edible, including Luigi. At least Mr. Luggs eats actual food and not just whatever crosses his path. And before you make the excuse that he's a dog, remember, Polter Pup makes an active effort to save Luigi's life, while Spooky tries to take it. This may not make him evil, but it does make him pretty bad. Lastly in this category, we have another piano-playing ghost, Amadeus Wolfgeist. Featured in Luigi's Mansion 3, Luigi finds him protecting a toad painting on floor 4 of The Last Resort. When approached, he acts indifferent to Luigi's appearance while showing a malicious smile as he runs away. He then attacks in a variety of forms, first using the chairs of the theater as well as dancing ghosts. When that works to no avail, he becomes infuriated, possessing his piano and using it to try and slam and throw bombs at our green-clad hero. Luckily, Luigi uses the new features of his Poltergust to turn the tides and win the fight. While he is similar to Melody Pianisma in many ways, the extent of his attacks and anger go much higher than she ever did, not to mention the wealth of negative emotions he shows during the fight. His music may be pretty, but no amount of mesmerizing melodies will undo his actions. And finally, for the moment you've all been waiting for, we have the worst of the worst. Characters who are extremely bad, evil, or just downright deplorable. The first in this category is the ghost-catching scientist himself, Professor E Gatt. Now, if you've seen a theory or two on the internet, some say he could be the most evil character in the Luigi's Mansion universe. Others, who have only played the games, know him as a kind of mentor for Luigi. So let's go over what we know about him from the Luigi's Mansion games. His actions before the first Luigi's Mansion are what seem the most suspicious. He states that he's traveled the world capturing ghosts and putting them into paintings until King Boo freed him. While this does make sense for a ghost like Boolasis, as Boos are known for causing trouble, a lot of the portrait ghosts are fairly docile. There is no discernible reason to catch them until they stop Luigi from saving his brother. On top of this, in Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, he just takes Luigi from his house without his permission to help save the ghosts of Evershade Valley. The whole cause of the Dark Moon breaking is caused by E Gatt recklessly selling the King Boo painting at a garage sale. And over all these adventures, he cares about saving his research more than saving others multiple times. However, he still has a couple things going for him. E Gatt does seem to be primarily focused in helping Luigi save his brother in the first game, saving Luigi himself when they first meet. Despite his experience with ghosts, he works incredibly well with the ghosts of Evershade Valley. During the events of Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, he accidentally creates the goo that eventually becomes Guiji. He plans to use the emotionless clone to take the place of himself and Luigi for catching ghosts, which is pretty nice considering Luigi's fear of them. And the guy even builds a new mansion for Luigi and a hotel for the brainwashed ghosts. While his good moments do mainly line up with his goals, it's hard to say that he's truly evil and not just a goofy old man who doesn't have his priorities straight and doesn't realize the danger of what he creates. That doesn't excuse his actions though, and lands him in the first spot in our bad section. Next is the pirate shark, Captain Fishhook. Found on the 12th floor of the Last Resort, he slowly approaches the pirate ship as Luigi looks for a way to save another captured toad. Captain Fishhook taunts Luigi by showing him the elevator button he has in his possession, before possessing the ship's floor. He uses this opportunity to attack far more viciously than even Amadeus Wolfgeist did, trying to eat Luigi while his ghost counterparts throw bombs. He even takes control of the whole ship, showing clear malice as he tries to tilt Luigi into his mouth. As we've established, eating Luigi is a bad thing. Worst of all, he can't even care to spell his own name right. There is truly no redeeming this character. Following in similar fashion, we have the caveman, Ugg. Hiding in the Unnatural History Museum on floor 9, Ugg sneaks up on Luigi by possessing a T-Rex's skeleton. He then eats the captured toad, forcing Luigi to fight the fossilized foe. He attacks as a T-Rex in many ways, mostly by using the sheer size to his advantage. Luigi must distract him, making him eat either dinosaur eggs or Guiji to attack his core. Once the fossils finally fall to the wayside, Ugg uses one of the remaining bones to assault Luigi with his sheer strength. Once again, we see the far extent that these ghosts will go to in order to stop our protagonist. What makes him really evil, however, is how he decimates the fossilized dinosaurs in the museum during this fight. If there is anyone that would understand the importance of preserving a dead body, it would be a ghost. Back to the first Luigi's Mansion, we can find the starving artist Vincent Van Gogh. While not a boss ghost like Chauncey, he does present a significantly major threat through his ability to bring ghost paintings to life. This results in the minor ghosts we see in the mansion, which assault Luigi at every turn. He is found incredibly mad that Luigi has stopped his creations, sending a last barrage of them to finally end our hero. When he succeeds against them, Van Gogh is sent into disarray when discovering that only one of his creations continues to live on, giving Luigi the chance to catch him. It is unclear if he also made the portrait ghosts and Boos. This last creation seems to refer to King Boo, despite the possibility of multiple multiple other Boos still residing in the mansion. In either case, he creates many powerful beings to serve his evil bidding, solidifying him as one of the worst. Last up before the top 3, we have the Boos. Showing up in every mainline Luigi's Mansion game, they act as the army to directly act out King Boo's will. Despite being shy, they are known to be very malicious in the ways they attack and scare Luigi. Nowhere is this more apparent than when they combine to form the Jumbo Ghost, Boolossus. Due to being in numbers, they no longer fear the Poltergust, and their power reaches levels similar to King Boo himself. On top of taunting Luigi, Boolossus can stomp, shoot lightning, throw bombs, and separate into numbers during their multiple appearances. This shows the true threat the Boos possess, and while they may be somewhat passive, their goals are far from it. Taking the Bronze Medal of Evil is the central antagonist of Luigi's Mansion 3, Helen Gravely. As the owner of the Last Resort Hotel, she devises a plan to break King Boo out of imprisonment and lead Luigi and the gang there under false pretenses in order to capture them. She has a clear love for King Boo, decorating the decor with his likeness and following his will to impress him. This extends to her outward appearance, as while she looks pretty with makeup, excessive anger reveals her true form, which is much more feral. Helen Gravely directs the majority of ghosts to antagonize Luigi and holds Mario's painting in her master's suite. When arriving in her quarters, she makes a final attempt to win the favor of King Boo, fighting Luigi using multiple lasers and close-up attacks until she is promptly defeated. While she may reach a happy end being contained next to King Boo, we can't help but give her the Bronze Medal for Evil. Acting as the boss of Area 2 in Luigi's Mansion, the Silver Medal of Evil goes to Bogmir, the Cemetery Shadow. Unlike the other characters on this list, who have actual personality and entity, he is the manifestation of the mansion's fear and despair. Despite not knowing what to fear and despair anymore, it resides in the largest grave of the cemetery, using shadowy clones to slowly encroach on Luigi, even when it itself is being captured. You can also teleport and seemingly control lightning just as some Boos can. Its face depicts true anguish, while also showing no emotion in its movements. This ghoul surpasses the normal definition of evil, exemplifying its form and earning this silver medal. So who exactly could be worse than fear itself? I'll tell you who, King Boo. As the main antagonist of the Luigi's Mansion series, he most exemplifies hatred and revenge. Funny enough, his actions actually begin fairly noble. He breaks into Professor E Gatt's bunker to save his fellow Boos and free other portrait ghosts. However, this is soon lost when he captures Mario and uses the ghost to stop Luigi from saving him. He cares even less for the lives of his fellow ghosts when he makes them all hostile in Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon for his own desires, as well as brainwashing them using his crown in Luigi's Mansion 3. He even dismisses Helen Gravely, the person who freed him from his prison, if she doesn't succeed at doing what he wants. If you need more evidence, just look at his demeanor. He lacks the fear most Boos have, and takes even more delight in tormenting others. He traps Luigi in a different dimension, fights with a giant Bowser suit, shoots lightning, throws bombs, drops spiked balls, and more in all of his appearances. In fact, at the end of Luigi's Mansion 3, he was willing to trap the entire hotel and all of its ghosts just to stop Luigi. There is no question that he is the true arch nemesis of Luigi, and deplorable to his core, and he more than earns the Gold Medal of Evil. But what do you think? Is Professor E Gatt really as evil as many make him out to be? Is Guiji secretly controlling everything behind the scenes? Let us know in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit that notification bell, and if you need a one-up, make sure to binge our Good to Evil playlist, where we break down the morality of the characters in your favorite games.